In a changing world, one thing remains constant. But sometimes, the manner in which it is presented differs. And the treatment of sex on the screen has been a reflection of the customs, manners, and morals of the times. The story of The Love Goddesses is itself a history of sex in the movies. We begin with America still in the shadow of the Victorian era, and the movie heroine bound by the same conventions as any young lady of society. In a film with the delightful title, True Heart Susie, Lillian Gish expressed this Victorian innocence. A heroine who did not smoke, would not drink, and couldn't even admit she had ever heard about sex. But someone had to do what a good girl could not, and the vamp was created. She could smoke, she could drink, and she had heard about sex. The word vamp came from a poem by Kipling, A Fool There Was. In it, he portrayed the predatory, blood-sucking vampire as a woman. And the vamp of them all was Theda Bara, the first of a long line of champions in the battle of the sexes. Invariably, the vamp's costumes were distinctive, suggesting creatures in whose grasp or web the victim was rendered helpless. Actually, sex in the movies had begun long before there were stars or plots, and the peep show nature of the Nickelodeon machines added to the forbidden fruit flavor. The sensational Little Egypt. To us, perhaps, Little Egypt may not look so sexy, but in 1898, Mark Twain had a heart attack watching her. In 1916, David Wark Griffith, master of the motion picture during its formative years, produced Intolerance, one of the great spectacles of all time. Mr. Griffith's heroines were as pure as any. But he managed to get away with a remarkable amount of nudity by using a number of titles, telling just what particular historical rites the girls were performing, and in which learned volumes the audience could further research the subject. In 1916, the public paid the astronomical price of $2 to see Intolerance. The other director who was to dominate the American screen for decades was Cecil B. DeMille. DeMille made this picture, The Cheat, in 1915. It starred the screen's first Oriental villain, Sessio Hayakawa, who plays an enormously wealthy Burmese merchant, a collector of ivory. The heroine is Miss Fanny Ward. Miss Ward is a lady in desperate need of money, and unwisely, she is borrowed from Mr. Hayakawa. When sex was encountered by a Victorian heroine, it was always the villain who threatened her. The use of violence in conjunction with sex was rare in 1915. But this theme is to appear again and again throughout the history of the movies. For motion picture audiences all over the world were to get sexual excitement out of watching violence on the screen. Another major recurring theme in the history of sex is comedy. For audiences often choose to laugh at a satire of the same violence that excites them. This film, an early contemporary of the Keystone Cops, is Bertha the Buttonhole Maker. World War I shattered the Victorian age. Overnight, women's role in society changed. They got the vote, their clothing changed, their point of view changed. The result was an amazingly different American woman. But it was not until 2 years after the war that the movies completely reflected this change. The catalyst was Valentino. The picture, The Sheik. It was a book every teenage girl in America was reading behind closed doors, each secretly sharing the heroine's fascination with the handsome hero. And that was the difference. The man who had kidnapped our heroine was not the villain, but for the first time, the hero. And Valentino's answer to Agnes Eyre's question, "Why have you brought me here?" would change the American love goddess. For now, for the first time, the heroine did know. The result was to be Clara Bow, the culmination of the flapper heroine. A sexy little girl, a tease. Miss Bow's most famous picture was It. She plays a young girl working in a department store who has a chance to go out with her handsome boss. At a time when the word sex was still considered racy, the word it was accepted as a substitute for sex appeal. It became a byword of the 20s, and Miss Bow, forever afterward, the it girl. Clara Bow was flaming youth and rebellion. She paraded a new worldly wisdom that sex somehow meant a good time. However, don't be misled. Miss Bow was but a first cousin to True Heart Susie. She, too, is a good girl. When they come home at night, although the boss is handsome, eligible, and they are thoroughly in love, there are only a few years between the end of World War I and Clara Bow. And yet what a wealth of sexual and moral changes were compressed into those years. The vamp was to disappear. Nita Naldi, in Blood and Sand, played one of the last of the great vamp roles. For now that the heroine had become aware of sex, the vamp was no longer needed. And shortly, though still in magnificent style, was to make her exit. More and more, European attitudes to sex were reaching and reshaping America. In a small American town, a crusading district attorney zealously guards the public's morality. To him, any woman smoking a cigarette is sinful. The film is Woman of the World. And this is the Polish star, Pola Negri, playing a countess who has come to America. A woman who knows about life and love and is not afraid of either. But she is hounded by the Puritans of the town until finally, unable to stand the hypocrisy any longer, she defends herself. What Miss Negri does not know is that she has already changed the town. Of course, in reality, it was America that was changing, and Miss Negri but a reflection of that change. The year is 1925. The 20s have started to roar. Inhibitions were cast aside. The demand was for something unusual, something exotic, something like the heroine of Sorrows of Satan, a legend of Faust and the devil. Faust is played by Ricardo Cortez and Satan by Adolphe Menjou. The devil offers Faust the opportunity of getting whatever he desires in the world: wealth, power, prestige, and even a marguerite. This is Leah Deputy, a Marguerite who is just a little different from the Marguerites we have known. Faust is smitten and gets his Marguerite, but her ambitions reach far beyond Faust. D.W. Griffith had his own personal view of the battle of the sexes. He had fought it many times and lost. By matching Marguerite against the devil, he evened up the score. It was the only sure way Griffith knew of having the woman lose. The change that had taken place can be seen by comparing Miss Gloria Swanson, just about the period of World War I, with Miss Gloria Swanson 8 years after the war. The same Miss Swanson, but quite a different love goddess. The scene is from The Loves of Sonia, a Swanson production of 1926. Cecil B. DeMille compared the excesses of the 20s with the orgies of ancient Rome as the subject of his film Manslaughter. He solemnly warned of the consequences of this generation's behavior. Notice the two women on the right. But moralist or not, DeMille was a showman and never one to keep an audience in the dark about the evils he was lamenting. He introduced the bathtub scene to movies with Gloria Swanson in Male and Female, and the nude bathing scene became a trademark of the 20s. Clara Bow. Every heroine very much in her own style. Esther Ralston. In his epic of the French Revolution, Orphans of the Storm, D.W. Griffith filled the bathtub with wine, as well as some leftover young ladies from intolerance. Wine for Griffith, milk for DeMille. The most famous movie bath of them all was to be Claudette Colbert's in The Sign of the Cross. Even in the late 20s, standards in Europe continued to be different from those in the United States with its basically Puritan background. This is Fritz Lang's Spies, produced in Germany in 1927. These charming ladies appeared in the American film Ben-Hur, but an export version that was never shown in the United States. The same scene was even shot 2 different ways. This is from the Faust legend you have just seen. Leah Deputy played the European version like this, and America saw her like this. In Europe itself, they were going a little further. Making pictures like Casanova and Small Town Sinner. And this is from Abel Gance's End of the World. European films differed not only in the extent of nudity they permitted, but in their portrayal of human behavior. In Diary of a Lost Girl, made in Germany in 1929, a young girl with no money and no place to turn goes to the address of the only friend she has. Unknown to her, it is a bordello. Its madam could have played grandma in any American film. But no American-made film could or would have presented a brothel in such a sympathetic manner. The girl is Louise Brooks, a young American actress who made her most famous pictures in Europe. And the question is, will she accept the bordello or not? One European film made at the end of this period caused a sensation in the United States. It was Ecstasy, famed for its numerous encounters with the censors. It starred one of the most beautiful women in the world, Hedy Lamarr. Afterwards, Miss Lamarr married industrialist Fritz Mandel. He spent a fortune attempting to buy up and destroy all the prints of Ecstasy, but he failed. Even Benito Mussolini had a personal print and would not surrender it. In 1938, Miss Lamarr was to create another sensation, this time for an outstanding performance opposite Charles Boyer in Algiers. It was to make her an American star. the can-can from G.W. Pabst's Latlantide. With the coming of sound in 1929, dancing brought to the movies new erotic possibilities. However, this film, Latlantide, has another significance. Its star illustrates almost perfectly the type of love goddess who was next to dominate the movies. A public caught up in the booming, wondrous, unbelievable 20s was now demanding the unattainable. The result was the creation of an exotic image, a woman not to be loved, but worshipped, even feared. Bridget Helm was the first example of this new queen-like goddess. Beautiful, cold, and deadly. She toys with her male captives and offers each his freedom if he can win at chess. Those who lose belong to her. It was this queen-like image that was next to rule the American film. The goddesses' appearance and their manner were royal, but they were not always godlike to start with. Even Greta Garbo did not start out projecting this quality at all. In fact, here is the raw material. Greta Garbo in her very first film, a simple Swedish comedy entitled Peter the Tramp, produced in 1922. Who then could have foretold that within a few years, Miss Garbo would be shaped into a legend? On the other hand, it might just have been possible to recognize another queen-like goddess from this early film. It was the Blue Angel that was to turn Marlene Dietrich into a star. Opposite her was the great Emil Jannings. He played a respectable, aging schoolteacher, obsessed with a nightclub singer and destined to be destroyed by her.
Eigentlich sind sie ein ganz hübscher Mann.
Marlene Dietrich was royalty no matter what role she played. The Blue Angel was the first of her 7 films to be directed by Joseph von Sternberg, and it was he who brought her to America.
Wollen die Herren vielleicht die Güte haben und sich zum Teufel scheren?
I'm sorry, miss, but I don't understand a word.
Will you please go away?
It's a shame allowing such women on a first-class train.
What's the matter with them, Parson?
I imagine the Honorable Divine objects to their morals.
Well, I thought they were pretty good-looking. At least Shanghai Lily is.
You mean to say that Shanghai Lily is on this train?
Hot water, sir?
Confound it, sir, that's Shanghai Lily. For the last fortnight, I've been attending a man who went out of his mind after spending every penny on her.
How have I changed?
I don't know. I wish I could describe it.
Well, Doc, I've changed my name.
Married?
No. It took more than one man to change my name to Shanghai Lily.
Not the 20s as generally believed, but actually the 4 years from 1930 to 1933. The new love goddesses were homegrown, and no love goddess was more American than the blonde bombshell Jean Harlow.
Let's not talk about things like that now.
Now, wait a minute. I'll do anything you ask me to do, but I will
I
not
love
live...
that nose. Oh, it's such a sweet... Oh, nose.
Nevertheless, whether the nose is sweet or not, I'm not going to live in your house. You might as well get that straight.
You want me to be happy, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to live in that.
You're not hungry, are you?
No.
I'm not either. Don't you just love Sunday afternoons? Everything quiet, nobody at home to disturb you.
Madge, there's something I got to tell
You
you.
were going away, weren't you? Packing to leave. Oh, honey lamb, you mustn't do that. What would Father say if he came back and found you gone? And I would cry. Cry.
The owner of the lazy Southern accent is Miss Betty Davis. The film, Cabin in the Cotton. Her co-star, Richard Barthelmess.
I don't know.
Come up to my room for a minute. I want to talk to you about something. Turn your back and look at those snapshots for a minute while I get into something more restful. Turn your back. Did you ever hear the story about Willie the Weeper made his living as a chimney sweeper? He had the dope habit, and he had it bad. Listen while I tell you about a dream he had. Marvin.
Madge.
A genius of design, created these monumental and mathematically precise production numbers. He dreamt up images that would have shocked Sigmund Freud himself. The production number always seemed to start with a duet between Ruby Keeler and Dick Powell.
Petting in the park.
Bad boy.
Petting in the dark. Bad girl. First you pat a little, let off a little, then you get a little kiss.
Then Miss Keeler danced. But sooner or later, it turned into a fantasy of eroticism. comedies got earthier. The public wanted to know more, to hear more, and to see more. The picture, Professional Sweetheart. Ginger Rogers is the purity girl, America's radio sweetheart, married for publicity through a nationwide contest. But the groom is caught on that he has been duped and takes matters into his own hands.
I'm going to make you into the kind of woman I thought you was. A good woman. A woman that...
Got a cigarette? I'm simply dying.
No.
Any liquor? Oh, dear.
Smoking and drinking and...
Smoking and drinking and men.
And men? How many?
I don't remember. Hundreds.
And stop that. Ain't you got no decency at all?
After all, you're my husband, aren't you?
Here. Give me that.
Give those to me. Give them to me. Give them to me. All right.
Comedy roles like these were Miss Rogers' first success. And though this type of movie was soon to disappear, she went on to the top, dancing with Fred Astaire and winning an Oscar for a dramatic role as Kitty Foyle.
Stop it.
Make me, you great big. I'll dance if I like, and I want to dance. Let go of me. Stop it. Oh, ouch! You great big so. If I ever lose my temper, I'll get so mad one of these days. I'll show you just how.
Glory, baby. Glory. Oh, God, please don't let her die. She's wicked, but I love her.
Jeanette MacDonald's name usually brings to mind Nelson Eddy and memories of sentimental and not particularly sexy operettas. But that was to come later. During these years, Miss MacDonald's comedies blended sex and sophistication. Among them, Reuben Mamoulian's Love Me Tonight.
Francis! Help! Help! Oh, she's fainted again.
You know, I had an elder brother who used to faint quite often. He was a nipomaniac.
What?
A nipomaniac. He used to go around pinching things.
Oh, I had a friend like that. He used to pinch business girls in elevators. They had to send him to a cooler climate.
No. I knew a girl...
This is no time for reminiscences. Go and get a couple of footmen to carry her upstairs.
But you gave the servants the afternoon off. Our footmen are playing football against the old soldiers' home.
Well, you two carry her upstairs. Someone fetch a doctor.
Yeah, you carry her. I'll get the doctor. Valentine, can you go for a doctor?
Certainly. Bring him right in.
Yeah, no, for Jeanette. She's fainted again.
Princess, permit me to introduce Dr. Armand de Pontignac. Your Highness, Doctor. And now, my dear, remove your dress.
My what?
Your dress.
Oh?
There's no occasion for distress.
Is that necessary?
Very. Yes. As long as professional ethics apply, I'll see you with only a doctor's eye.
Oh, dear.
The doctor's eye is satisfied. Now I'll hear your heart. Don't sigh. Very good. Nothing wrong here. Now I'll take your pulse, my dear. Perfectly regular. Right on the tick. Madam, oh madam, you cannot be sick.
Then why do I lie awake in bed? And why does blood rush to my head?
At night?
Quite right, at night. And why does music make me sad? And why do love songs drive me mad?
At night.
Quite right, at night. And frequently I faint.
That's quaint.
I feel depressed when I'm alone in bed at night.
How old are you?
I'm 22. While other people dance, I feel so dead at night.
At 22. Oh, this won't do. Are you married?
My husband died 3 years ago. At 16, I was wed.
You've been a widow for 3 years?
3 years, the prince is dead.
Are you very happy with your spouse?
He was the son of a noble house. It was the happiness of great peace. A Rochambeau, my better half. And here you have his photograph.
Mama! Well, just how you feel, man?
The Depression reshaped America's attitudes. The consequences of a people having to face breadlines and starvation were to be a tightening up of their values. The American audience no longer would accept a freewheeling approach to sex. This attitude brought about the production code, an age of innocence, and a brand new love goddess.
Oh, he's elder.
Are you sure you like him?
I'm just crazy about him. I'm awful crazy about you too, Daddy. I've had such a good time.
Well, now you go to sleep. I'll be in the next room if you want me.
Night, Daddy.
It was the period of Shirley Temple, Judy Garland and Andy Hardy, Deanna Durbin, and the top love goddess of 1937, Snow White. From True Heart Susie, we had come full circle to True Heart Susie. The love goddess was now the girl next door. It was just a bit part in a movie called They Won't Forget. The entire role lasted only a few minutes, but it was to make Lana Turner a star. The love goddess had become a normal, well-shaped, well-rounded girl. And her name was Betty Grable.
Reviving crew, so let's give him 3 big ones.
Crew! Rock, rock, rock! Crew, crew, crew!
Teacher, teacher, I'm a swinging preacher. Ho, ho, look at me go. La-di-ya-di-ya-ha-ha.
Reedy-dee-dee-doo-da-da. 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 College swing. What's that you call it?
The girl next door was a heroine with whom you flirted and whom you married. But because she could not say or do what the love goddess of the early 30s could do, her sex appeal could only come about by emphasizing her physical beauty. There were sweaters, and there were sarongs, and Never Never Lands where a girl could be startled by so little as a kiss.
Kiss?
A kiss is something that, well, you just don't see it around. It's something you do.
Kiss?
That's a kiss.
Then, for a second time, a world war crushed an age of innocence. It was time for the love goddesses to return to the great tradition.
Me?
Miss Rita Hayworth.
Sure, I'm decent.
A second cycle was beginning. Once again, the brakes were off. And with gathering momentum into the 60s, moral restrictions were to be loosened.
Put the blame on Mame. Mame gave a chump such an ice cold no. For 7 days they shovel snow, so you can put the blame on Mame, boy.
Only one love goddess was to span the period from the age of innocence to the 60s. From National Velvet to Cleopatra. Elizabeth Taylor, probably the most beautiful love goddess of them all. We have chosen this film, A Place in the Sun, to show the beginning of that change.
Hello.
Hello.
I see you had a Miss Van Hughes.
I guess it was.
Why all alone? Being exclusive? Being dramatic? Being blue?
I'm just fooling around. Maybe you'd like to play.
Oh, no. I'll just watch you. Go ahead.
If I could only tell you how much I love you. I can only tell you all.
Tell Mama. Tell Mama.
No one can create an illusion better than Hollywood. And the greatest illusions have been the love goddesses themselves. Images formed out of the clay of ordinary mortals. A girl shaped into a symbol of sex. First the makeup department. Then the publicity boys take over. Neither is particularly concerned with the girl inside. They shoot a lot of cheesecake. Anything to catch the eye, to show off the figure. Any prop will do, preferably phallic. Miss 4th of July, Miss Thanksgiving, even Miss Idaho Potato. But acting, that's not so easy. That's work and patience, a willingness to learn. The girl inside is a little scared, but if there's talent, it begins to show.
I got water in my ear.
Huh?
I got water in my ear.
Yeah, I'll shake it out.
Oh, God. Oh, you're hurting me. Joe, let go.
It's kind of exciting and attractive.
Who's attractive? Who's exciting?
Earl.
Who?
Joe, you're strangling me.
Who's attractive? Who's exciting?
You.
That's better.
Even more than talent, she must have a charm all her own. A manner so distinctive that even if other women copy it, it is still her. Upon millions love her. She belongs more and more to the public, less and less to herself. The created image must continue, though the girl inside may be tired. She must pose and smile, pose and smile. Just one more picture. One more. it's sometimes hard to remember that there was a girl inside. In the 50s again, a demand arose for something more exotic and different, for a love image larger than life. And the most delightful of all the larger-than-life heroines was the captivating Sophia Loren.
You wanna be Americano, Americano, Americano. You were born in Italy. You'd try living a la moda. But if you drink whiskey and soda, all you do is think of key. You dance the rock and roll. You play it baseball. Those cigarettes you smoke leave mama broke. They should only make you joke.
Hello. Would you like to buy me a drink?
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm just here on business.
So am I.
Not tonight. I'm trying to quit.
You wanna be America, you wanna be America.
Julep with a bottle of Kentucky bourbon for a chaser. The young lady is about to become a southern fried chicken.
And for you, a very Italian drink.
Buona fortuna. What am I getting?
Trust me. Chin chin, a dove va?
What does that mean?
You would say to where it's going down.
I'll drink to that all night. And to your melanzane. Will you have a dance with me?
Yes, baby. Come on, let's dance, huh?
The opposite was also true. A new exotic appeal existed in the child figure, the smaller-than-life love goddess. Carol Baker in Baby Doll, Sue Lyon as Lolita, Tuesday Weld, Susan Strasberg, Haley Mills in a scene from Tiger Bay. Perhaps the most charming and certainly the most successful of all the childlike heroines was Miss Audrey Hepburn. Her very appeal was both as woman and child.
The mouth of truth. The legend is that if you're given to lying, you put your hand in there, it'll be bitten off.
Oh, the hard idea.
Let's see you do it.
Let's see you do it.
Sure.
As the 60s loomed, history continued to repeat itself. Room at the Top marked the beginning of a new period of frankness about sex.
It's not that I don't want to. It's just, I suppose I'm scared. I do love you, Joe. I do. I'd do anything for you, Joe. Anything.
Except what any girl will do for the man she loves.
Joe, how much do you love me?
Very much. About £1 million worth.
Joe, be gentle with me.
Come on, Susan. I think we better be going now.
I don't want to go. I don't ever want to go. Isn't it super, Joe? Now we really belong to each other. Really and truly till death do us part. Wasn't it wonderful? Wasn't it absolutely the most wonderful thing that ever happened to you? Wasn't it, Joe?
Yes. Come on, let's go.
Just as Clara Bow had symbolized the rebellion of the 20s, Brigitte Bardot was the image of a new generation's rebellion. She disrobed in her films as a child with this robe, on impulse. And she brought the screen to a stage of nudity such as had not been seen since the late 1920s in Europe. Oddly enough, the first acceptance of nudity on the screen for a star was in 1913. Annette Kellerman, the greatest woman athlete of her day, starred in Daughter of the Gods. But it was not until some 40 years later that Marilyn Monroe posed for a calendar and changed the entire concept of what a star could and could not do. Her studio was shocked, but the public, instead of rejecting, accepted Marilyn as she was. Within a few years, most of the love goddesses would conform, and even ecstasy was to be made again, this time with Marla Moore. But nudity itself seemed not exciting enough, and with Europe in the lead, filmmakers took to shooting love scenes in the nude. Les liaisons dangereuses. The Lovers, One Summer of Happiness, and God Created Woman. Combinations of beauty, violence, sex, and nudity became the formula of the 60s. In 30 years, the movies had come full circle. If anything, the treatment of sex was more overt than ever before. But England and the United States held out a little longer. That is, until they could present sex under the safer guise of satire. The picture is Espresso Bongo, starring Lawrence Harvey and Sylvia Sims. It was produced in England by Val Guest, a fine comedy that won exceptional acclaim.
You can look at the goods, but don't touch. On the goods, on the goods, but don't touch.
You wouldn't walk in Cartiers and touch every stone. You wouldn't stroke a Mayfair mink that wasn't your own. Which means unless you're serious, just leave the loot alone.
You can hover like an eagle,
but until you make it legal,
you can look at the goods, but don't touch.
We could not leave this history of sex without a tribute to those many movie makers who, faced with no other choice but to use a symbol, have done so memorably. Among them, Busby Berkeley's Honeymoon Hotel. Ernst Lubitsch's The Love Parade,
Do you hear those cannons?
Yes. Isn't it glorious? Our bridal music.
Carol Reed's The Stars Look Down. D.W. Griffith's The White Rose. But perhaps the best of all was DeMille's Cleopatra.